Toxic people have always been around us, and they always will be. These kinds of people hurt you with their words almost as if they enjoy it. And they do it so skillfully that in the end, you end up feeling guilty. But now it's time to break that cycle. You can't give them free rein in your life anymore. I promise you this. The simple yet powerful Stoic principles you'll learn in this video will protect you from all forms of manipulation and free you from toxic influence. They won't be able to control you anymore. In fact, they'll regret losing you. But first you have to open yourself to this change. If you want to access this inner strength, subscribe to the channel, like this video and share it with your friends. Because this isn't just a video, it's the first step toward protecting yourself and discovering your emotional freedom. Now let's get into the core ideas. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Your anger should not become a toy in someone else's hands." In other words, if others can push your buttons and make you feel whatever they want, your emotions are no longer under your control. So ask yourself honestly, when someone wrongs you, do you instantly become angry? When someone posts a negative comment on social media, do you think about it all day? If the answer is yes, then that's exactly what they want. Toxic people are manipulators. They feed on your reactions, your anger, your frustration, your tears, or even your defiance. All of these are just moves in their game. But the moment you refuse to play, when you don't react, they become like a punch thrown into thin air. Pointless. Imagine you're sitting at a big family dinner. Everyone's chatting, laughing, but you're slightly on edge. Because you know that one person who never misses a chance to provoke you is there again. That relative who always has something to say. Still not married. Time's ticking. What are you even getting out of that job? You're gaining weight, you know that. Some people around the table smile awkwardly, others roll their eyes. But inside, your temper is slowly rising. You start thinking, maybe this time I should clap back, because it's getting unbearable. But if you give in to your emotions, if you raise your voice or lash out, that person wins. Your anger is their secret victory. But this time, let's try something different. You take a deep breath, you observe your own emotions, and then you calmly shift the topic. Don't worry, everything is going just fine. Or you smile and say, "By the way, you look great today," and redirect the conversation. What is this? It's not suppressing your reaction. It's choosing the right one. You're taking your emotional buttons out of their hands. They can no longer provoke you and play with your peace. That is a sign of inner strength. This is the Stoic approach. You cannot control what others do, but you can fully control your own thoughts, reactions, and behavior. So when a toxic person comes at you with criticism, insult, or belittlement, you can say to yourself, "That's their issue. I know my worth. I'm not stooping to that level." Acting this way gradually transforms you. You become someone who no longer reacts to every insult, who doesn't explode at every spark. You become resilient, and that version of you is someone toxic people can no longer deal with. So in the end, it's not them hurting you. It's your inability to control your reactions. The more calm, composed, and emotionally grounded you become, the less power toxic people have over you. Because reaction is their power, but calmness, and that's your shield. Let me tell you something. Toxic people rarely attack you openly. More often, they try to throw you off emotionally. Sometimes they do this through subtle words, sometimes with jokes that border on insults, and sometimes by making you feel guilty. And here's the key point. It's not about what they say, but how you respond emotionally. Let's say someone tries to downplay your success. Of course you manage that. You have so many opportunities anyway. On the surface, this might sound like praise, but deep down, it's filled with envy and passive aggression. And you can feel it if that comment starts to irritate you, and you let your emotions take over. A storm begins within you. What happens next? Maybe you start defending yourself. Maybe you begin explaining, "No, that's not true." Or you throw a sarcastic remark back. What does that mean? Your emotions are now making decisions for you. So what does Stoic philosophy teach us? Stoics remind us that emotions will come and they will go. The real question is, do you drown in them or can you simply observe them? In one Stoic lesson it says, you feel angry? Pause. Begin to watch that feeling like an observer. Ask yourself, where did this anger come from? What is it trying to tell me? Do I need to act on this emotion? Or can I let it pass? These questions pull you away from automatic reactions, and you stop being a slave to your emotions and become their master. Imagine your partner or spouse says to you, "You never understand me." This statement is loaded with emotional pressure, and inside you feel an instant urge to go on the defense. What do you mean I don't understand you? I give you everything I have, you want to shout. But in that moment, if you act like a Stoic, you take a deep breath and say calmly, I'm ready to listen. What would you like to change? What does that kind of response do? It shows you're silently mastering your emotions. It neutralizes the other person's emotional attack. It shifts the relationship from a destructive pattern to a constructive space. Is that easy to do? No, but that's where true strength begins. Never forget, toxic people want to control your reaction. They want to make you feel angry, guilty, fearful, or worthless. When you automatically surrender to those emotions, they get what they want. But when you meet that emotion with calm, awareness, and pause before responding, you take the power back. So recognize your emotions, name them, observe them, but own them. Because if you don't own your feelings, someone else will. Toxic people will try to control you through your reactions. But when you stay calm, you take their power away. When toxic people treat you unfairly, a voice inside you often starts whispering, why did they do that to me? Was I never important to them? What did I do to deserve this? These questions are familiar because we're most affected by those we have emotional ties with. Their actions, their silence, their sudden changes in behavior. All of it makes you question yourself. It's like a movie starts playing in your mind. You go back and analyze every message, every conversation, every moment, hoping to find a meaning, hoping that maybe one day they'll come and explain. Maybe things weren't what they seemed, but that cycle slowly eats you from the inside, because the problem isn't your inability to understand. The problem is their unwillingness to explain. Toxic people often stay silent on purpose. They don't speak, but you keep talking inside your own head. The more you search for answers, the more their silence feels like punishment. Sometimes it makes you feel guilty, other times worthless. But here's the truth. They often understand you perfectly. They just want you to keep questioning yourself until you start doubting your own worth. That is a form of emotional control. They don't give answers, because giving answers means taking responsibility. They make you feel like the guilty one, so they can look like the right one. Stoic philosophers teach us, searching for explanations in every behavior is draining your energy. Every why did they do that keeps you stuck in the past. If you're still trying to understand everything, fix the relationship or prove your worth, you're still under their influence. But real strength lies in staying silent, accepting what is, and moving forward. That's not indifference. It's a sign of inner clarity and deep self-knowledge. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine someone who's been in your life for years. You've done a lot for them. They weren't there for you during hard times, but you always defended them. Then suddenly, they start pulling away. They stop replying to your messages, act distant, and clearly don't care anymore. Inside, a storm begins. Why did this happen? We were friends. Was it all meaningless? Maybe one day they'll explain. Months pass, and the longer you wait for an explanation, the more you close off inside. But in truth, staying silent, quietly letting go, and moving on without needing closure is your path to healing. That brings up an important question. Why is silence so powerful? Because silence says, I no longer need an explanation. It's how you take back the power you once gave away. You no longer wait to hear what they think, what they feel, or what excuse they might offer. You simply say, with or without words, I'm on my own path. I know my worth, and you no longer have access to disturb my inner peace. Remember this. Toxic people often use silence to make you feel guilty. When they leave the relationship without a word, when they vanish without closure, they want you to be confused, to sit alone with your thoughts. But when you respond with calm, detachment, and move on without waiting, that is their greatest fear. Because now, you are no longer playing their game. One of the most important things when dealing with toxic people is setting clear boundaries. Many of us believe that being kind and understanding means always saying yes, especially in close relationships with family, friends, or co-workers. Saying no often feels wrong or rude, but that mindset slowly drains you, because constantly adapting to others means ignoring your own needs. You must understand, a boundary isn't a wall, it's a door. To some, boundaries may seem like coldness or rejection, but in reality, boundaries protect healthy relationships. It's not saying, I don't want you in my life. It's saying, in order to protect myself, this is where we must stop. For example, telling a relative who always belittles you, I don't want to meet if this kind of talk continues. Saying to a friend who constantly puts you in debt, I'm sorry, I can't help you financially anymore. Creating distance from someone who always dumps their emotional burdens on you. These choices are hard, but they free you from toxic dynamics. You must also understand this. Toxic people don't look for your boundaries, they look for your weak spots. The more they see that you struggle to say no, the more they'll take. First it's a small favor, then an hour-long rant, and eventually emotional blackmail. If you don't stop this process in time, your life becomes their emotional dumping ground. Stoic philosophy teaches us that you don't have control over the outside world, but you do have control over your own choices. No matter how kind you are, you're not obligated to maintain relationships with everyone. According to the Stoics, being loyal to yourself begins with learning to say no to others. And this isn't selfishness, it's emotional responsibility. Let's take another example. Imagine you have a co-worker. Every day after work, they take up your time with complaints, drama, and endless negativity. And by the time you get home, you're mentally and emotionally drained. At first, you were understanding, but now it's become a pattern, and you feel suffocated by the relationship. Now you have two choices. 1, you can keep abandoning yourself. 2, or you can calmly and firmly say, I have other plans today, I need to head home early. Or you might stop responding to their calls and begin creating space. These are the signs of emotional boundaries. It might feel uncomfortable the first time. You might even feel guilty. But later, you'll feel free. Remember, not everyone should have access to you. Your energy is limited. Sometimes the most healing word is no. And let me say this again. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're shutting people out. It simply means you are consciously choosing who gets close and how close. When toxic people encounter your boundaries, they will feel discomfort. But as long as you stand firm, calmly, and clearly, they will either back away or be forced to change. As human beings, the desire to be accepted, liked, and loved is a natural need. But the problem begins when that need turns into an obsessive search for validation. You try to please everyone, maintain every relationship, and win everyone's approval at the cost of losing yourself. And that's exactly where toxic people find their way in. They know that criticism from them shakes you. They can control you with silence, withdrawal, or by making you feel not enough. Because deep down, you still crave their approval. Stoic philosophy teaches us, do not seek your worth in someone else's eyes, find it in your own nature. This means you don't need someone else's recognition to be truly valuable. If you stay loyal to your own principles and your sense of what's right, that gives you inner strength, and that strength replaces the need for validation. Imagine being in a relationship where you constantly feel the need to prove yourself. I'm good enough for you. I didn't hurt you, so why are you acting this way? Why can't you see me? Why don't you appreciate me? In such dynamics, you're no longer living as yourself. You're living as the version of you reflected in their eyes. That's not freedom, and it's emotional bondage. So when does freedom begin? Freedom begins the moment you say, "This is not about me." When you no longer connect someone's silence to your worth, when you don't take their indifference or attempts to belittle you personally, that's where your freedom begins, because their validation no longer controls you. How can you apply this? 1. Write down your values. What do you believe in? What's right for you? Every time you face criticism, measure yourself against your own values, not theirs. 2. Get comfortable with silence. Not every relationship needs to continue. Sometimes saying nothing is the first step toward your freedom. 3. Stop comparing yourself. The more you change to win others' approval, the more you lose touch with yourself. Remember, your worth is not measured by competition. One of the most common traps we fall into in toxic relationships is this. We keep believing they'll change. We think, maybe this time they'll understand me. Maybe this time they'll apologize. Maybe this time they'll see my worth. But Stoic philosophy offers a clear response to that hope. Your role is not to change another person. Your role is to govern your own inner state. Because the more you expect change from the other side, the more you lose control. When they don't change, you feel hurt. When they repeat their behavior, you get angry. And when this cycle repeats, you become emotionally drained. But if you focus on maintaining your emotional balance, then their silence doesn't break you. Their cruel words don't make you question your worth. Their unwillingness to change no longer makes you feel not enough. Let's say you have a friend. They constantly criticize you, treat you with disrespect, and brush it off by saying, "That's just how I am." And you keep waiting for them to improve. You keep giving them another chance. Each time telling yourself, maybe this time. This emotional waiting mode eats away at you from the inside. It drains the quality of your life, weakens your confidence. But the moment you stop focusing on their change, and instead focus on how you stay grounded in front of them, that's when your power returns. How to practice this? 1. Observe your reactions. If someone's actions anger you, ask yourself, how could I have preserved my calm in this situation? 2. Let go of the expectation for change. Every time someone disappoints you, remind yourself, this is their character. My job is not to fight it. My job is to protect my peace. 3. Seek evolution within. Your growth should not depend on someone else's transformation. The most powerful breakthroughs happen silently, inside of you. Remember, when your goal is to change another person, they hold the power. But when your goal is your own emotional stability, the rules of the game change. You are no longer the one reacting. You are the one protecting yourself. And that is true inner strength. Toxic people will always exist. They can appear at work, within family, among friends, and even in close relationships. Sometimes they seem very kind, sometimes helpful. But through their behavior, they try to make you doubt yourself. But what truly matters is not what they do to you. It's how you respond. Stoic thought teaches us one thing. Don't complain about the wind. Adjust your sails. Life is full of challenges, and toxic people are just one of those tests. But when you wait for them to change, you give away your power. True strength lies in protecting yourself. This means someone criticizes you. You don't rush to defend yourself. You remain calm. Someone ignores you or stays silent. You don't worry or feel worthless. Someone says hurtful words. You don't stoop to their level or make noise. You keep your peace. These behaviors are not signs of weakness. On the contrary, they show your emotional strength and greatness. If you have this maturity, they cannot manipulate you. They cannot control you by making you feel guilty. You no longer need anyone's approval. This is the mark of a free spirit, a strong person. Never forget, if toxic people can't anger you, they can't control you. If they can't direct you, they can't draw you into their games. If you maintain your calm, their energy no longer affects you. This is your victory, and now it's your turn. If these thoughts touched your soul, it means the power inside you is beginning to awaken. Subscribe to the channel so we can explore such valuable ideas together. Write in the comments, how do you apply these principles in your life? Or which part impacted you the most? A life free from toxic influences starts not with anxiety, but with calm. And sometimes the greatest change is simply deciding not to react. If you're ready, return to your strength, because the voice of the silent winner always carries farther. See you in the next video.